Hello, and welcome to Focus on Framingham. I'm your host, Mike Cunningham, and we have a very special show today because we have none other than the legendary Jim Pillsbury coming up in a minute here. But first, I just wanted to go over some of the developments that's happened. We're recording this on March 23rd, 2020. It's a Monday here in Framingham, and a lot has happened over just the last few days since I did the last show. So I just wanted to kind of go over that, and then we'll move on to our interview. So yesterday, the city sent out to all residents a notice that the city has declared a local state of emergency. And it reads, today, Mayor Yvonne Spicer issued a declaration of local state of emergency for Framingham to help officials most effectively address the impacts of COVID-19 pandemic. The declaration of emergency is retroactive to March 10th, the date of Governor Baker's declaration of a state of emergency within the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and it's attached here. It's in the email. Pursuant to the authority vested in her by Article 3, Section 2 of the Framingham Home Rule Charter and her general implied powers of mayor to manage and deploy the city personnel and resources to protect and help Framingham residents during a state of emergency, the mayor has determined that COVID-19 pandemic poses a clear and present danger to public health safety and the general welfare of the people of Framingham that necessitates a declaration of local state emergency. So then it goes on to talk about how the city authorizes city personnel to take all those actions necessary to protect against it. And then we got another update today. So this would be on March 23rd. Massachusetts issues a stay-at-home advisory closing all non-essential businesses at noon Tuesday, March 24th. City also receives notification that 4 additional residents test positive for COVID-19, bringing the total to 14. State issues the stay-at-home advisory, non-essential businesses to close, workers and public. The advisory goes into effect at noon on Tuesday, March 24th. Essential businesses and services such as grocery stores, pharmacies, and gas stations will remain open. For a full list of essential services, they give a list in the notification. Services vital to Framingham public health and safety, such as police and fire responders and trash collection, will continue. They also note that they did receive that the number is up to 14, and on one of the people who tested positive early on has since recovered, so that's good to hear. He also gives some other information here about the city and the schools are taking preventive measures, and you can find it at www.framinghamma.gov/COVID-19, all one word, which they update frequently. So I would encourage you to check that out. So now moving on, I have here via satellite a dear friend of mine and somebody that's very familiar to the city of Framingham, none other than Jim Pillsbury. Hello, Jim.
Michael, it's so wonderful to be working with you again, and it's even more wonderful that we can practice this social distancing over the web. We certainly don't want anybody to get anybody else's germs. We are germ-free in the Pillsbury estate over here, but I just wanted people to know that we are everywhere we go, that I've gone in the last week or so. I've had a mask on and I've had gloves on. So I'm taking this very seriously because I know somebody very near and dear to my heart that has immune issues, and I certainly don't want to be the person that brings home a virus that could kill just about everybody on my street who's over 60, and it's just about everybody, by the way. And that would be a real tragedy. So it's nice to see you back on TV, by the way. This is just this technology thing is just, you've always been a leader in that. And we'll maybe talk about that later in the show. But
Hmm.
I think it's great to see you involved in this again. You really have shown that you've been a great director, uh, and ideas guys. Um, I'm happy to be here with you again after all these years. So, you've got a technical in there, or no?
A technical what?
You got a malfunction on that mic?
Yeah, it tips over sometimes. So actually, I don't think I ever mentioned this microphone on the show. This was given to me by another friend of mine, and he got it for free. This is a Sennheiser
That's a
MK4.
high-end,
Yeah,
high-end mic.
very
Yeah,
high end, and
yeah.
he got it for free from Sennheiser just because he asked for it. So that gives you
Oh.
some idea of how affluent he is.
Oh, yeah.
His claim to fame was he was the station manager of a television station in Chicago, and there was a young black news anchor that he thought might make a great talk show host. Who do you think that might be?
A black talk show host. Harvey. That. What's his last name? Harvey.
No, think female.
Oh, female.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, female. Um, I'm at a loss.
Oprah
That's-
Winfrey.
Oh, stop.
Yeah,
Really?
that was
Oh,
yeah.
no kidding.
Although
Wow.
he actually
I
later
should have. Yeah.
he later admitted it was actually his wife's idea.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So he's been in TV
So-
for a long time, and he's a good friend of mine, and he's given me
that's nice.
some gifts. I've created some gifts for him, and he's given me some nice
That's
things.
great.
So yeah. So
Oh, that's great.
so back.
You're talking Framingham and what's going on with the virus, the pandemic. And I think the mayor's come out today. Nobody can criticize anybody at this point except perhaps the president. But I think the mayor did the right thing, and I think also Sam Wong has ordered no groups of any kind meet, and I think that's another good move because when you travel around a little bit, you can see people still hanging out
Yeah.
in quarters, and I wonder, are we not getting the message out to them? Is it a language thing? Is it not everybody has the web at home? So I'm wondering how many people are not getting the message to hunker down and stay away from everybody as much as you can. I would hope that the cases that we have, 14 positive cases, that's bad enough. But I would hope that number would not just all of a sudden double and triple in the next couple of days. It
Yeah.
would be a terrible thing for Framingham to lose anybody of any age. But really, it would just be terrible. And I can't fault the mayor or Sam Wong in this case at all. Perhaps certainly the president has not necessarily lived up to
Hmm.
we all thought the president should be doing, and now we hear nothing's going to go on with those the two parties trying to get anything going with a bill to the small business and everybody else that's been affected by this. So this is a disaster in a lifetime that I don't think any of us are going to see. I hope none of us would ever see this again. It's a terrible crisis. And unfortunately, it came from China. And, regardless of what everybody has said, their numbers seem to be, if we can rely on them, seem to be dropping, which, I got to say is a good thing because that's the epicenter of this whole monstrous mess.
Yeah.
So And
Yeah.
your kids are at home, I
Oh yeah.
assume, with
Yeah.
doing
This
the homeschooling thing in the lab.
so that homeschooling has been an interesting challenge. It seemed that the school was completely unprepared for this, and that's not a criticism. I
Yeah,
understand resources and
yeah.
the risk that the company I work for, we every year have to do a pandemic exercise. So we had something on paper all ready to go, but it seemed like
Okay.
the school first had to figure out who had access to internet at home, who had a device.
Yeah.
They were distributing the devices over the weekend to kids that don't have it. They provided locations where kids can get internet access safely, I guess, in the parking lots of the library and things like that.
Yeah.
And just today, they've seemed to reach out and they've kind of done like an initial lesson plan, I think, for trying to continue. Um, they've also called individual parents. My wife has gotten a phone call from at least one of them, and they'll reach out and just to check and see how things are going. But
Well,
one thing that they did mention, at least at the time, this was a week ago, was that they weren't going to provide any. They weren't going to have new material for kids to learn. It was just going to be an ongoing review, and the reason is because they're afraid that kids might fall behind if they don't have access. You know, so that's kind of how that's going. So I have a question for you.
sure.
When did this really hit home for you? When did you really start to get scared about this? Because unlike with other events like 9/11 and the Kennedy assassination and things like that, there's no real set date and time where everybody will remember where they were when they found out about it. It just kind of slowly kind of snuck in. So when did you feel that it was really serious?
Um, it's strange things happened in my life, and this is just one of them. We went to the movies on Super Bowl Sunday, and thinking that it would be uh, not very crowded, number one, and number two, we wouldn't necessarily run into anybody because everybody wants to watch the Super Bowl. Um, Coming out of the whatever movie theater we were in, there were a group of students or young adults with masks on,
Hmm.
and this was just at the point of I think we've already had one diagnosed case, and we were starting to hear rumblings about in China there might have been a little bit of a delay in the information coming to us. They were calling the people who had got sick had pneumonia and not necessarily this virus. So at that point, I was really shocked that I would run into a group of people. This is exactly the same time that that young UMass student was diagnosed,
Mm-hmm.
and he was a commuter student. So he could have been in Saugus or Framingham or Winthrop or Aintree. Who knows where he lived? And I'm cautious. Uh, and I try not to put myself or my loved ones in situations where it's not a safe thing. And I really thought the movies would be a safe thing on Super Bowl night. And I was for the next couple of days, I was very ill, and not with that necessarily. It was some kind of stomach flu that I had for 2.5 days, and it went away. And then someone else I knew was sick a couple of days after. So, um, at that point, the news was really starting to ramp up that, that more people, the president hadn't done shut off the country yet, and at that point, I was really concerned that we were, involved in some, strange way running into people that might have been infected. And
Yeah.
I have since learned that, and I'm not a racist by any means, but back when this was all starting over in China in November and December, um, the routine was everybody was wearing masks. They were already starting to figure out that the masks were a way of somewhat protecting themselves and spreading the disease. So it would for me, it was Super Bowl Sunday, and I
Okay.
just got it right in my face and in the same hallway, touching the same doors, in and out, the same concession stands, maybe even the same seats.
Yeah.
Thank God that I wasn't, and we weren't involved in any of this, because it would, I'm 67 years old. I'm not a kid anymore, and I don't have any underlying health problems, issues that I know of anyway. And I certainly don't want to experiment with this.
Yeah.
So for me, it was all Sunday.
Wow.
And
I'm actually very impressed with that, because I didn't really get serious for me until towards the end of February. I would say it was the 27th. There was a high school game at Loring Arena, and my wife and the kids wanted to see it, and we first went to the Columbus Club of all places. And while we're at the Columbus Club, now on the way home, I'd been listening to stories on the radio that had me kind of freaked out at that point. I was listening to NPR, and they were talking about Italy and Iran, and it started to really get me concerned. So I said to my wife, while we were eating, I said, we need to start the plan for this. And she kind of, was kind of shocked. She said, really? You think so? I said, yeah, we should probably start to stock up on things that we might need. So they went to the game, and I went to BJ's, and I stocked up. And at that, and already at BJ's this is February 27th, they were out of Purell, they were out of Clorox wipes, they're out of a lot of the cleaning
paper
stuff.
Towels.
They had paper towels and tons of toilet paper. There was before there was a big run on that, so I stocked up. So we were fortunate. So since then, my wife has just been on an ongoing, just every day she spends hours trying to source things where she can have things delivered to the house.
Yeah.
Figuring that that's probably the least exposed way of getting things that we need. And it has been very challenging. Peapod from Stop and Shop, they're booked solid for 2 weeks. But she was able to get a delivery from BJ's and from Wegmans. They both do delivery, so she was able to do that. But it has been getting kind of scary. I don't know if every day.
I'm petrified to read when we get up in the morning after we feed the cats and get the coffee going. The numbers in other parts of the world are so far above ours, which makes it even more when you hear about 500 people dying a day. It really is say, this is really a catastrophe that's playing out. It really does shake you right to the core that this could happen right underneath our noses. We weren't prepared for it. Maybe there's a lot of good reasons why we weren't, but we're the best and the biggest and the best educated group of people in this country. And when everybody stands around and points their finger and says, well, we don't have enough of this, it's really scary to think that our lives are more dependent on the government than we would really like to think. And we can't, the food or the toilet paper is just so weird about that. But the hand sanitizer and the wipes and all the rest of that, we were missing the boat here, and we need to start making things in this country so that we're not so dependent on the people who who really gave us this little present that's going to
Yeah.
ruin our economy,
But
for perhaps
Jim, though,
the year.
the more I think about it, though, I think this virus could have started anywhere. It's just one of those things that happen with it's a mutation of an existing one. And a lot of people, they start to blame China for this. I see it like an asteroid hit the Earth, and it hit in China, but it affected the whole planet. Well, we're not going to sit there and blame China for it. That's,
Well,
that's
if
my
I may,
opinion.
if I may offer a different argument,
Mm-hmm.
it's been even on CNN last night. This virus came from the interaction between humans and animals, and China.
Mm-hmm.
They've checked it right down to the market. They have these open air live animal markets where you can buy, bats and snakes and all these animals that really shouldn't have anything to do with human beings. So I think the word zoonitc, is the explanation of where this
Mm.
actually came from in China. And I'd love to agree with you and say, yeah,
I
it
understand that.
come from somewhere else. But, China, they still eat dog in China.
Yeah.
They still eat these exotic animals that, I don't know as mankind really was designed to be eating, these critters that carry these terrible diseases that we know about already. Bats, clearly bats have these issues of some kind of disease within themselves.
Yeah.
So I'm of the belief it came from a market in Wuhan. I'm a pretty reasonable guy. If somebody can tell me it came from, some garbage dump in New
Mm-hmm.
Jersey, I'm okay with that too.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it clearly has shown now that
Are you implying
the
that New
internet.
Jersey has a lot of garbage dumps?
No, no, I'm not trying to pick on New Jersey, but anywhere.
Yeah.
If it came from Switzerland,
Mm-hmm.
let's say, or something,
Yep.
I'm okay with that if somebody can show me that it actually did do that. And I believe the experts know now that these
Mm-hmm.
things that have come from the interaction between people and animals shouldn't be. I mean, it just shouldn't be. Hey, listen, they're
Mm-hmm.
a country that doesn't have enough food. They can't grow enough food,
Yeah.
and for protein, they eat all kinds of things that you and I would think beyond barbaric. So, um,
Do you think we should be having a shelter in place at this point?
you know, um, I I don't think it's a bad idea. Um, I don't, I think for me, they're going to have to do what they think because they look at the big picture, not just in Framingham, but
Mm-hmm.
the governor's going to have to. The mayor can't do that herself, I don't believe.
Yeah.
Governor would have to do that, and I don't know as he sees or we see what he sees in some of this, and that's what really pisses me off. You don't hear enough about the people who have recovered already. I mean, are there any besides one person
Yeah.
since it started? I wish they DPH, and they've been told, the DPH told hospitals not to report their numbers, which I think is not fair to the public.
Yeah.
How many people are being tested? How many people are positive? How many people got better? I mean, I think that's as important as knowing how many people are infected, because if everybody's going to die, oh man, we're in deeper doo doo than I would have thought. So
This is a
um,
graph that I found today showing confirmed cases, days since 100th case without the log scale. So it's just the, straight up, line. And what has me
wow.
worried there is the U.S. You can see in the pink, our curve is sharper than any other country, including Italy. and that's scary.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So
Where'd you get this from?
I was from a news source on Twitter. It cut off the source on the bottom.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Unfortunately.
Yep. Well, that's a scary. That's a scary
it's
graph.
a scary graph. Yeah.
You know, and let's face it. You know, people that are old. I know people that are old. You know, if we're the affected group, and now it appears that we're not just the affected group. It sounds to me like 20-somethings and millennials are getting are not immune to this like everybody thought they were. I saw an interview with just a young man the other day or today, 20-something, I believe he was, and he's pretty sick.
Yeah.
So I really wonder, to be honest with you, if it's this whole thing about just old people is, Italy has got nothing but old people, right? That's who are dying over there.
Yeah, but I saw reporting showing that they think that the reason why they really had the rapid spread there was more because they just weren't heeding the shelter in place and the social distancing.
Yes, I saw that too. Yeah.
And
You're right.
that has me scared here because I feel like a lot of people aren't taking this seriously.
I agree.
Yeah,
No,
I have coworkers
100%.
that still go into the office for things, and I told my manager, I said, I'm not going into the office for anything until the office is reopened officially.
Yeah,
That's that.
Yep.
You know, but people
Can you do all of your work? Can you do everything remotely?
Basically, yeah. I'm fortunate enough that everything I do is just on a laptop, and it doesn't matter where I am. So.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. But not everybody is as fortunate as me, and a lot of people.
Not everybody.
A lot of people.
Right.
I've been very generous with with tips with people that have to do these deliveries and things like that. I can just only imagine having to be out there all day talking to people and everything. So.
You want to talk about the businesses that are not open or open?
I don't have a list. The only thing I know that the news was focusing on the pot shops, that there was huge lines at the dispensaries today because they'll be closed as they're not considered essential. So everybody's stocking up.
let me correct that. Wherever that news you came from, medical marijuana dispensaries are considered essential.
Okay.
Will open.
I wonder if it's only prescription.
It's for recreational that's closed.
Yes, that makes sense.
And I don't know if that makes sense if you think about liquor stores are essential.
Yeah, I know. I don't get that either. New York State has the same thing. I don't understand.
I don't get it.
Yeah,
I don't get it. There's more
I agree.
relief from some weed than there is in a 6-pack or 2 6-packs or a bottle of gin. The source or somebody published a list of all the stores that are open, and they all make sense.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to worry about daycare, but I'm sure some of the employees of our local first responders and hospital workers. So the YMCA, I don't know if you heard that or not, is a drop-in emergency.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's good to know. We're actually gonna have to wrap it up because I'm running out of time here, Jim.
Oh, so no kidding. All right. Well, listen.
We should do this again. Maybe later this week. I've got so much stuff more to go over with you. If you enjoyed this,
you and I have so much history.
Yeah.
Friend. We need multiple shows. So
yeah. I'm gonna
not on it, but what you're doing, the more news, the more talk about this, the better. Michael, thank you, buddy.
I will see you soon, and thank you so much for being my first real guest.
You're the best, Michael.
All right, talk to you later.
All right, peace, man.
All right, bye.